welcome to Lead Live, reminding you of your personal genius and how you think in order to actualize what you desire. Welcome here again to Lead Live, a weekly broadcast on Wednesdays at noon. We're so pleased that you're joining us again. And for those of us who are joining us for the first time, be prepared for an exceptional set of individuals, two individuals who have made a profound difference, not only in their lives, in the lives of others. One, in fact, who I'll be introducing you to in a few moments, thinks this is going to be a lot about his story in terms of his own development. True. Yet it will also be about his contributions that demonstrates that he's paying it forward. So what is our subject today? The power of transformative leadership. And I say, when all else fails, bank on Coach Beam. I can't emphasize that enough. You're going to hear stories from Coach Beam about him and the many students, over 1,000 students he's impacted over his 40-year career. You're going to hear from one of his students, and you're going to be introduced to Netflix, Last Chance U. If you have not checked that series out, we highly recommend that you check out Last Chance U. And as you experience today, you're going to want to check out Last Chance U on Netflix. Coach Beam is a humble living legacy in the California Bay Area and beyond for his impact on, as I mentioned earlier, thousands of young people and adults, leveraging his network with the Oakland Raiders, the 49ers, San Francisco 49ers, the National Football League, and countless business and community leaders. At least he ensured that the promise of many young boys and young adults could be actualized. And yes, some became professional football players, at least 20. And given their remarkable successes on the field, yet in profound ways, these now men have exceeded those successes. Ideally, they would be remarkable in the classroom at Skyline High School, at Laney College, where he led as a critical resource, an instructor, a professor of sorts, but really a teacher as a coach. Then there is the fact that Coach Beam and his colleagues ensured that over 90% of their football players not only performed well on the field, but more importantly, they performed well academically. That led to their successful entry into baccalaureate degree or bachelor's degree granting colleges and universities across the country. Among those remarkable young men who were affected by Coach Beam is Kevin Parker. Before I talk about Kevin, I want to mention a few more things about Coach Beam. He may get a little bit red-faced, embarrassed, but I want to highlight this because he is due so much because of his impact, even on one of my goddaughters. He doesn't know this. John Beam, between his time at Laney College and Skyline High School, he produced over 20 NFL players, as I mentioned before, 7 who participated in the Super Bowl. He coached players who have won at every level of football, including NCAA Division I National Championship, NCAA Division III National Championship, Canadian Grey Cup, NFL Europe Championship, and Arena League Championship. I can go on. From his coaching success, this man built up a relationship with coaches across the country, which is in part why he has access to speaking immediately to individuals who value the work that he's done and believe in the results in terms of the young men who have transformed their lives because of the intervention and the actual investment of not only time, energy, overall insight, real effort, real unconditional love and care. We're going to come to that in a moment. His proudest accomplishment is in his career has been the number of lives that he's been able to positively affect, completing their education, and most importantly, becoming productive, contributing young men in society. He's won a number of awards. I want to speak now about this remarkable man who joins him, Kevin Parker. Not only is he, I'm sure, a beautiful dad. I've not seen his children, but I've heard about his children from John, and I've heard about his wife. More importantly, I've heard about not only how he parlays his loving relationship with his family, he does it in a way where he adds value to the community. I'm going to let him tell that story. He's a native of Oakland, California. He graduated from Skyline High School thanks to the intervention of Coach Beam. He attended the University of Oregon, where he received his baccalaureate degree in sociology. After that, he worked for 16 years in the football department at the University of California at Berkeley. He's married, as I said, has 4 children. His story is very compelling, and for key reasons, we are here today. So I'd like to welcome both John and Kevin on with us. And I'm going to ask each one of them to give a little bit of an introduction, brief, and share something with us that we would otherwise not see online, hear about it, or even when we go look at the Netflix show, we would not see it. Let's start with you, John, since Kevin made it very clear. He follows the lead of his coach.
Yes.
Well, I think, I have a wife and 2 daughters, and my mom was Korean, born in Korea. My dad was born in Illinois. I don't think people understand that my background is both Asian, Korean, and white. But I've been a product of Oakland for 39 years, coaching here for 38 years. So I've been affected by that relationship with the city and the community.
Wonderful. Kevin?
Similar to Coach, been here at Oakland for, I think we came when I was like 4 years old from North Carolina. My mom and dad, my dad was in the military. My dad and mom split. I moved to Oakland, went to all the schools, all the levels, and then ended up at Skyline under Coach Beam's guidance, and started off my career. I'm like Coach is married. I'm married to my wonderful wife, Melissa, and 4 boys, and just love Oakland.
Beautiful. So, Coach Beam, when I asked you to come on board and present, I wasn't thinking about the Netflix series, although months ago you told me about it, and I was very proud of you and the rest of the coaches and the support team that facilitate the success of countless young men and have a spillover effect on many young women who would otherwise not even go to college, but for these young men who are going to college. So when I ask you because I know of your legacy. I had the opportunity to be in partnership with you as the president of the college at Laney College. And I got to witness your behavior. And I look at people's behavior, and that tells me far more, 99.9% of who the person is. You're close to 100%, but not always. And your behavior was so remarkable that I made it a commitment to ensure that we, as an institution, paved the way for you and the team to continue to do what you do so well for young people. Help us understand why you choose to coach. Why do you choose to coach in a community that many people say, you don't have to be there? And I know while I was president, you had a number of offers to go to more prestigious institutions and be in environments that didn't have the kinds of challenges that this city has. Now, let me just make it clear. There are many beautiful aspects of the city. Things are working well in a lot of areas. Yet in particular areas where Black and brown folks are reared in East Oakland and West Oakland, there are historic constraints born out of a series of systemic challenges that were codified based on the racism that exists, based on the sense of isolation. And I mean, I can talk about a number of the constraints, but the constraints has led to homelessness. This constraint has led to young people growing up with just a mother or with their grandparents, if they're with anyone at all. A lot of our students are living in their cars, et cetera. Why do you choose to stay in this kind of environment? What is it?
Well, the first question you asked is, why did I choose to coach? And there's a couple reasons, right? I'm going to give you a simple one. I get paid to wear shorts and tennis shoes every day. So that's, and I get paid to play, have fun. But the other real reason is that the football field, is the largest classroom in any college or any school. So education occurs in this giant classroom that people don't understand. So when I taught PE, I was affecting 52 kids per period, whereas a teacher might only have 30. So that's why I want to teach PE and coach. I think that kind of goes hand in hand. When you talked about Oakland and you said the different things that you said, it made me think about it. But really, it's like this, and you and I have talked about it many times. Do you see the glass half full or half empty? Many people look at Oakland and see half empty, all the problems. I look at Oakland and I see half full. I see all the wonders. Like Kevin Parker, a diamond. He didn't even really need polishing. It was already there. He just needed to understand that it was there. And so that's the beauty of it, right? That Oakland there are other places you could go, but it doesn't mean that you really need to go, right? Everybody wants to go to the other pasture, the greener pasture. I don't believe it's there. You make it green by being there. And it could be a bunch of BS that makes it green. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But wherever you're at should be the place you want to be and make it the best you can. If you're looking over for the next place, then you'll never really be able to see and enjoy the place that you're currently at.
I have two questions for both of you. But before I go to those questions, I want to ask you, Kevin, what was it about Coach Beam that affected you, and in what way? I know that's a big question.
Growing up in Oakland, you always hear about Skyline High School and, the great John Beam up there on the hill. They were winning a lot of championships. So, you being a competitive person, you always want to, win a championship. So if you went all about going to Skyline, you wanted to win that championship. And Coach Beam came down to talk to me when I was in junior high school with my mom and my twin brother, who we actually split and went to rival high schools. And it was something about Coach. And I think he just, I knew he was going to care about me. He seen me hanging out on the corner one day and made me jump in his truck, and he took me home. And that just showed you that that's the kind of man that I wanted to be around, because I didn't have that father figure in my household. So once I seen that and knew what he was all about, I asked my little questions that I had, and he poured into us, and he poured into the ones before me and the ones after me. So I wanted to go up there and be led by that man.
And so if you didn't have John, where do you think you might have been?
I don't know. I could have been lost. My mom was very tough on us. She gave us our slack, but she definitely cracked the whip on us when she had to. But I could have been lost. I don't know. I could have been. There's some other great coaches that's come through the OEL, so I could have been landed with somebody else. But I'm all about a person of faith, and my faith was led to Coach Beam. My twin brother went to a different school, ended up going to prison. Going to youth authority for 5 years. And luckily he didn't have to do his whole bit, so he had a second chance. So I could have been down that road. Actually, I was in the car to go commit the crime and jumped out because I thought about my mom. And I was like, man, we get caught, Mom's, I'm gonna get a whipping. And I didn't want to get that whipping. I didn't want to let down Coach. I didn't want to let down my teammates. And I fought myself to this day that I should stop my brother from doing it, and not. What I told him was bring me some money back, and I should have told him, like, guys, this is a bad idea. Let's not do this. And he did bring some money back, but he ended up, being caught by the police, and his life went in a different path, and mine stayed on the straight and narrow. So that could have happened sooner.
That was your twin brother.
Yes, my twin brother.
And I don't normally share this, but in some ways I can relate. I'm not male like you. I wasn't reared here in Oakland. I was reared in Los Angeles, but I do know what it means to have a brother be caught up in the system. In fact, I had several. I also have several who are doing remarkably well. And yet those who were caught up in the system were brilliant. And thank goodness you didn't get caught up in the system because you've been able to show your brilliance. Did you see yourself going to Oregon? The university?
I didn't see myself going to college until, you know, you had to pay your dues up at Skyline. So you never was a true freshman coming in and was going to play and be the starter because it was such a great legacy of guys up there. So I had to wait my turn, and, I was able to learn. Coach Beam has a thing. Everybody pretty much had to play JV until he brought you up, or if he seen something in you at the end of the year when guys were going off to the playoffs. So I was able to be brought up, and take my licks and punishments. But it all worked out, and the rest is history. But off to Oregon, I didn't see myself going there, but I did make it because of Coach Beam, his toolages, and all our other great coaches and our teammates. I had a lot of help from a lot of great teammates and a lot of coaches.
So, how do you feel when Kevin says that, Coach Beam?
So when Kevin says certain things like that, it feels good, no doubt. But I also say that Kevin, there was a decision made to get out of the car, right? And so he made that not because of me, he made it. So there was something inside of him already. The other piece is that, that he didn't say, but why were they going to go get money? Mainly because they didn't have food to eat. There's things that had to happen, right? I'm not justifying going to rob people, no doubt. But we forget that there's a cause, right, to make these effects that happen. So his brother gets caught up into this legal system, right? But if he had money to eat and there was food there, and if I'm not mistaken, Kevin, didn't he have a little baby at that time or one on the way as well?
Yeah, my little nephew.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So all that played into a decision that was a bad decision. But we as a society, as human beings, don't take care of our own. So they have to be put into, as a 15 or 16-year-old, make a decision that's life altering. So I think that's real clear for people to understand. And I know we talk about, you're going to ask me about leadership, right? And how to cultivate leaders.
Yeah, go for it.
The one thing I want to say is this: everybody's a leader. Once you say that this person's not a leader, then why will that person ever strive to be a leader? If you take the other point of view that everybody leads, can be a leader, and let them lead, will change everything. Now, when you lead, if I put you in charge of something, it might be, and Kevin, we did this at Skyline. Remember, you had to sell candy, like a little bit of candy. So I put you in charge of a little box of candy that you had to sell. If you did good at it and you were able to do more, then maybe you took over and you organized your group of 5 or 10 players to give candy to sell, right?
Yep.
And if you did good at that, then you did a bigger group, right? But everybody had their own personal leadership to start with. Leadership starts within. You got to lead yourself first before you can lead others. And then you build that I'm going to lead one other or 2 others or 3 others. And then I build it to a bigger organization and bigger. We forget that. And as a leader, I need to understand that everybody that comes in contact with me, I got to make them the next leader, or we'll never get anywhere. We have to perpetuate that. And so Kevin was a leader all the time, right? He just needed to see that. He was charismatic, and he did lead. The problem was a lot of time the behavior he led people to were what we would say were not appropriate, okay? But appropriate to whom, right? And so we had to channel that leadership back to where it's more appropriate, right? So once Kevin, and I know, I'll let you tell your story, Kevin, but once Kevin figured out what was going on and academics became more important, then he was leading people to study hall just like he was going to study hall.
Let's stay there for a moment. Oh, go ahead. Finish that. There's a critical point.
Well, he was going to study hall, and then he was going to class where before he wasn't going to class. So when people saw Kevin going to class, well, if it's cool for Kevin to go to class, it must be cool for me to go to class. When you cut class at a high school or a junior high, I want you to think about this. No one cuts to hang out by themselves. They cut to hang out with their buddies and their friends. But if all their buddies and friends are in classes, then they just go to class because that's where everybody's at. And so when Kevin started going to class, that was his leadership. People followed him into class. Go ahead.
You shared something with me, and maybe you can speak to it, Kevin. John, Coach Bean, you shared that there was a number of points or stages of, I would call it, your transformation. You ensured, John, that Kevin got tested. Talk to us about that, because I think this is powerful.
Well, and when Kevin came to Skyline, you know, he didn't want to go to class. He was struggling in class. So I have an adaptive PE credential, right? So I'm always like, well, maybe there's something there. Let's get him tested. So Kevin got tested. And once he got tested and came back, you know, that he was dyslexic, it made sense to Kevin now. Instead of people telling him, oh, you're dumb because you can't read or you're stupid, Kevin goes, wait a minute, I'm smart. I just got a couple wires that were crossed. They didn't go to the right spots, right? So it had a reason why reading was a struggle. Mm-hmm. And then once he knew that, he just exploded academically. His, 3.5, 3.8, he was moving forward. Mm-hmm. But there was still frustrations, no doubt, right? But the point was there was a reason for the frustration, and now Kevin could work on those things. And we forget to test people. We just want to label folks versus finding out if there's more going on. And then once it happens, and then like Kevin is being strong enough to embrace it, be okay with it, and put in the work it takes, because it does take work, right, to overcome a hurdle.
And for those who are viewing, there are folks who are judges, who are doctors, who are educators, and I'm sure accountants and others who are dyslexic. And I want to hear from you, Kevin, because you're now a business man.
Yeah, thanks to Coach Bean, our great alumni that's have come out of Skyline. But yeah, I think my struggle was I would go to class because like I said, I always had to check in with my mom. Everything would leave with my mom, and so I would go to class, but I would be late to class because it was a big thing. I was always the most popular person at every school I went to because I was a twin. And so when I got to Skyline, I didn't want people to see me going to the resource program classroom because everybody would laugh at those kids. Sorry about this, but
no, don't be sorry. This is real.
We would be laughed at, but a lot of people that know, for everybody has been in one of those classes, not to be ashamed. You go in there for people that care about you and want to get you some help. So, I would go to class, but I just would go late. So the teacher would be like, I'm going to call your mom or I'm going to call Coach B and to figure out, because you're not late to practice, but why you want to be late to my class? And one day I just had to be honest with my teacher, like, look, I'm the most popular person here. I can't have people see me coming here because, your peers are talking about you out there on the playground. And so she would give me a buffer because I was always respectful to any adult I ever come across to this day. And she would give me a buffer, like, all right, you got 10 minutes. I mean, you better be here. And if not, I'm going to start calling coach and I'm going to start calling home. So I would always make sure I was there. And then I got to a point, was like, look, if they truly my friends, they ain't going to laugh at me. So I started going to class on time. And the ones who were true friends, they would accept me and help me. So that's why I love my fullback I had there named Kwame Stewart, who would teach me how to read.
I am so proud of you. Tell it.
At lunchtime down on the, on the bleachers. So we end up growing really tight. You know, both got scholarships. He was a 4.0 student at Skyline, and he showed me some ways. And with Coach, you know, I made some bad choices that time where he told me he would, you know, I had an opportunity. He brought a stack of letters out to me from colleges, and he has a unique way when he sees something in you, you start getting mail, but he doesn't give you the mail right away. You know, you have to work for it. Mm. And so that first day, I think my first letter was from West Point. Tell us all the time. I'm like, where is West Point? West Point. And you remember my dad was a military person. I'm like, oh, that's I'm definitely not going to West Point, but I was very honored to get that letter because that sparked something in me. A couple of days, a couple of weeks go by, and I get some more mail, and I'm like, man, I got opportunity. And I have made a bad decision at school one day. The coach pulled me into his office. I'll never forget it. And he told me clear as day, if you ever do what you did, I will kill you. And because that's not what men do. To that day, I'm so thankful for his words because I've never made that same mistake again. And that's what I tell my 4 kids and every other young man that I come across is women are to be respected, not disrespected. And if you put your hands on them, it's in a lovely way. So, Coach, I thank you so much for everything you have done for me and the other men and young women who's come across your path. So sorry about being so.
No, please do not apologize.
I hope I didn't use the word kill you. I hope I use a better word than kill you, Kevin.
I'm gonna keep it real. Oh, yeah. Well,
yes, you keep it real.
Coach is gonna kill me, but y'all know who from Oakland that he wasn't playing with me if I, you know, and I needed it that way. I needed it straight up, no, not unsugarcoated. So excuse me for nobody trying to Coach.
In fact, years ago when I went to one of the games we won out of the area, I took my goddaughter with me who graduated from Skyline High School. And she's actually online, Lynn Marie. And she looked at me and she says, "Is that Coach Beam?" I said, "Yes." "You have Coach Beam?" And she was all excited. Otherwise she was just kind of nonchalant. And she says, "He's the only man I would let kick my butt." I looked at her, I was like, "We didn't raise you to have anybody hit you." And she said, "No, you have to understand, this man he cares about you. He wants you to do the right thing." And it was, I already knew that, but then to have someone who I've known since she was this little thing, be able to grow up to this remarkable woman and say that, it was reinforcing. And in fact, what she writes here, as a Skyline women's volleyball player, I know firsthand what Coach Beam has inspired many young ladies as well as young men. And then she goes on to write, "Coach's talks and advice include personal topics about life, not just sports and academics. Thanks, Coach!" Exclamation mark. And then I want to go to a few others, and I want to thank a couple of my I gotta call them nieces. Camille says, "I love that. Make it green where you're at. Make it green where you're at." And then Coach KP, Titan Pride, from Jairus Wilkinson. Remember him? Yes. And Tomoko says hello. Roy has a very important question. "The conversation reminds me of the book, What a Coach Can Teach a Teacher. Lessons Urban Schools Can Learn from a Successful Sports Program," by Jeffrey Duncan Andrade. Do you know Jeffrey? Because he's here in Oakland. This guy is brilliant. He's an Oakland teacher, coach, but also university professor.
So I had the privilege of seeing him start, like, I think he was a Teach America guy early on. He was Westlake.
Correct.
He was coming to coach basketball, because I ran the Christmas tournament, right, Kevin? We ran it for probably 30 or 40 years. And he came up as a junior high coach and then ended up being the women's coach at Oakland High and move on. And I know he's written a ton of books, or goes and speaks, and I'm proud of him, you know, and I say that in a good way, but I also say that, and this could be, and it's nowhere a I'm not dissing him at all, but you know, good people leave, but then what about the good people that need us here, right? And so I think that's the difference, right? We need people to stay. We need people to stay involved in our community. They have to see that there's a value here. Like, you know, you could, Jeff, you can write all your books, but still be at Oakland High, you know, doing women's basketball, or Westlake doing junior high basketball, right? And I think like the comment about, you know, coaches could help teachers in the classroom. And I used to they would ask me to go into classrooms to do, you know, classroom management, right? And I'd walk in there and I'd be like, oh my gosh, they just let these kids walk over. But what's interesting, and I don't know why it happened, but as soon as I walked into class, everybody would sit down and just not say anything. Like, and all I did was walk in there and I'm like, okay. And I always expected that. But that's what I think is that if you expect a result, you get that result. If you're not sure about the result, then you get uncertainty from young people or whoever, right? So I thought that was always interesting that you would come into a class and why wouldn't it automatically be the way you need it to be? Or, you know, it's just like, I always enjoyed teaching. Like that was the one thing when I went to Laney, you know, I'm coaching, but I always made sure I kept a badminton class, somewhere I could stay with other students because I wanted to be involved. And the biggest thing I miss from leaving from Oakland schools to come to Laney is just teaching PE to just every kid, right? That are, you know, whoever walks into your class, not because they're an athlete, but you don't treat them any different than you would an athlete, right? You teach them the same way to be as elite, that you're an elite PE student, right? And you show them that, and you give them the same amount of time and effort that you would to your football team or your basketball team. And I think kids love that. They enjoy that. And you make it fun for them, right? But again, I think it goes back to, even with your teaching PE with 52 kids, you make leaders, you let them all be leaders of groups. And kids love to be leaders. No one believes in them, but once you believe in them, once they know that you believe in them, you can they'll do anything for you.
Yep. So there's a statement by the team at East Oakland Switchboard. Kevin, good for you for overcoming embarrassing situations and being motivated to strive. Congratulations on your business and your family. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you. The business part, yeah, my life changed. I like to say when you bring us on, and thank you so much, Dr. Webb, for having us on today. Coaching at Cal for 16 years and then transitioning over to commercial real estate, it was definitely scared. But, you know, again, like I told you, coach is going to always be my coach. He called me and said I had an opportunity from somebody who's been looking at me from afar, who wants to, you know, give me opportunity. And told coach I was very scared, but he said, hey, you know, what's to be scared of? You got to try it. And you know, you might like it. And if you don't, then you probably go back to back to Cal. But I won't name who our CEO is, but I love him and his family and my whole team. And one of my colleagues who chimed in, Jairus, who I work with on a daily basis. These great men I've been able to do commercial real estate and learn from has been life-changing for me and my family. And I just want to pay it forward. I'm really big in the community and trying to help others. You know, the homeless was brought up earlier. Just taking care of the homeless and treating the homeless as people, because they are. We need to stop looking at them and riding past them, and stop and ask a person their name. That gives that does a lot. I did a homeless experiment with me and my colleague about a year and a half ago, and
I heard about that.
It was, man. It was. We come so far, but we have so far to go. I'll just say that, leave it at that. And but just asking the person their name, even if you have nothing to give, just saying, "Hey, how you doing? What's your name?" will give that person to the encouragement to keep moving and keep going forward. So
give them back their dignity.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Roy writes, "Thank you, Kevin, for sharing your powerful story with us." Yeah, very powerful. And the question that John referenced earlier, without me conveying it explicitly, is how to cultivate leadership in another. And John reminded us that literally each one of us already has leadership. And that's why we crafted that question, cultivate it within the other. It's not, we don't give people leadership. We give them tools. We give them experiences. We support them to get to the place that they have the capacity to get to, even without us. Yet with us, they get there more efficiently. So the second question that I have, unless there's more questions that come from the audience, and don't be shy. I know some people contact me after a show and say, I really wanted to share a question or a comment, but I just don't want to put myself out there. Understand. So in the future, feel free to share a question or a comment even afterwards. And we may be able to do a short segment answering those questions. At least when we do the podcast, we can answer those questions without an additional segment. The second question, though, is why invest? And this question was purposely written, so I want everyone to listen to this. Why invest in the so-called throwaway people?
I think that, first of all, there's no such thing as throwaway people.
Thank you.
And because we even know what that is, that's already a strike against us. Don't worry about where people have come from. They're here now, so let's develop them and let's grow them. Let's worry about where they're going. We always worry about where they've been in the past. We look at those things, right? Instead of seeing what we see in front of us. If you're a true leader, you should be able to see the person in front of you as a gem. And this is what I say to Kevin going forward, right? Kevin had all of these unbelievable abilities that were shrouded in Kevin the athlete, Kevin the popular guy. And so he lived to that station. Is that, you know what I mean? But ultimately, Kevin had even more going on. And he had more talents, but he was stifled almost by himself because he lived in that label. So when we were a throwaway kid, we didn't label somebody, right? And we shouldn't label anybody. I mean, neither of my parents graduated high school, yet I have a degree, a bachelor's degree, an A degree, a master's degree. My daughter has a PhD, my wife, so why is that? Because we didn't let labels stop us. We need to move forward. And I want to share something. And I just say this because Kevin painted this picture, and this big old picture. And he just did it free.
No, put it up again. Put it up again so that people can see it. That is, wow, that's awesome.
And and obviously it's
and Kevin, you had no training, correct?
No, he trained himself.
No training. Yeah, I had a couple good friends who are, I call them Mr. Miyagi's, and I'm like Danielson, that showed me some different tricks. So to RG and Sam, to those great artists, and Sam Adams have taught me some tricks, and I have a little studio here in the house now. And like Coach said, when I learn something, I go full steam ahead, and if I take a liking to, I try to put my best at it, best foot forward, and give it my all. Let me try to become a good artist or a good person.
The first piece that you produced was of Obama.
Yeah, President. Oh, yeah, you did the homework on me, Doctor. Oh. Yeah, President Obama in 2008, when he became the president, that was something that had to drive you. When you're becoming to pick up something, you need something to motivate you to, when you have those tough days when you want to give up. And he was the person, my guy in life, to get me going. So he got me to that point now. So, yeah.
But the point for me is that what other talents do the people that are around us have that they may not even know, unless if we're the true leaders, don't try to bring out in them. So we need them to go ahead and get outside of the box, right? We need to take an adventure and let folks do it, and then pick them up if it doesn't work, but let them at least try and encourage them to try. And so, maybe it'll be a way to solve a problem at your work or place or whatever you're doing. If you let your folks that are there with you look at it from a different perspective and a different angle. I think that's what a real leader does, right? Is help encourage that, because I know, like, as a football coach, I'm going to attack a defense a certain way. And I've been good at it, don't get me wrong, but there's many different ways to do it. So I have to bring in other people to bring me the advice and teach me how to attack, from a different angle. And if I want to keep growing, I have to keep evolving. Right? If you don't evolve, you end up dying, right? So evolving is really big.
You know, I always bring up mindset. And before I make this statement, I want to acknowledge, I think it's Iqbal Monroe. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. He says, hello from Indonesia.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, and the many others who are joining us from around the planet. And Tomoko and Roy just compliment the other statements earlier by just saying, thank you, Kevin, exclamation mark. When you told the importance of asking homeless people their name, every human needs dignity. And yet that dignity is within. And if we don't watch it, we allow someone to dim it, to actually cause it to hide from even ourselves. Yeah. So I want to just give you more. I mean, I can't use the right words, even though I think I have some facility with words. I think I'm at a loss with how to convey my deep appreciation to you, Kevin, because you've not just chosen to look at your life, see the value. Not only, you didn't have the father in the home, and you had negative messages from the interaction between your parents. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you also had things that you valued, and your mom just unwavering commitment to your growth and your well-being. However, she did that, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No. My mom has been our everything. She was our everything. She's a lady who worked 2-3 jobs, but she always made sure when we step outside that house, you represent me, and you're going to respect every elder. You're not going to take no mess from anybody, but you're going to definitely respect your elders, and you better give your best and put your best foot forward every day. And that's what we tried to do. My brother's going on now, but that's what I'm trying to do, just in our legacy of my mom, my brother. I'm actually trying to have a better relationship with my father now, just because life is short, and you got to forgive. And you never forget, but you have to forgive and move on. So, and that's what, with coaches guidance also. And that question that we had, the forgetful people or the throwaway people, that I was scratching my head reading that, and I'm just like, who is that? I don't know who that person is. And if anybody looks at somebody as a throwaway person, they have some soul searching that they need to do within themselves. So everybody is important, especially the homeless right now, the mental challenge right now. Anybody that has advice over their life, we need to pray for. And that's what I'm here for. Every day I step out my house, I'm trying to affect somebody's life. And no throwaway people here. If I come across them, I'm gonna try to find you, and let's find your path back together to success. So somebody, they seen the best of me and then give up on me, and I'm never gonna give up on anybody. So,
and that's what this program is really about. It's about recognizing that all of us across this planet have this internal capacity to exceed even what I consider to be our high expectations. And the challenge is to recognize that, honor it, own it, be the authentic you, as Kevin was referencing earlier. And so Kevin leveraged his mom, whether it was out of fear, whether it was out of deep, unwavering love, or combination of all of that and much more. She set you up to be able to leverage Coach B, right? Mm-hmm. She told you to respect adults. So when you had this man come at you who was like, okay, here's what we can do, et cetera, you didn't just dismiss him fully. You may have questioned because you didn't have that experience previously, right? Tell me if I'm right.
You're right.
As a lot of people question, when you don't have the support, typically, you question adults. You question if they're going to be there tomorrow. Yes. And Coach B not only showed up, he did not leave you. And I am certain that this man is when I see him walking around the lake or places on speed dial with people that he coached many years ago. He's never let anyone go. And you don't have to do that to be an effective leader. I'm not suggesting you've got to be a Coach Bean, or you have to be a Kevin who's gone from being in a very drug-infested, crime-ridden, and yet loving environment. That's the oxymoron. That's the weird part about it. Deep love that kept him grounded. And then he had Coach Bean that pulled him. Then Coach Bean connected him to a leader in the commercial real estate arena Then he's working with the team to transform West Oakland. I mean, not just a family, but a whole community. I mean, that's powerful. And Coach Bean wasn't expected to go to college, by society. He wasn't expected to earn a master's degree. He certainly wasn't expected when he was successful as a coach to stay where he was. He was expected to go up the ladder, which he could have. And there's nothing inherently wrong or right about moving up the ladder. It's all about choice. The power, though, is investing in a vision. And that's what these two men have. They have a vision. And their vision is much bigger than, I want this car, I want this house. Well, those things, you get, and that's fine. But I want to make a profound difference. That's what we call transformational leadership. And that's why I wanted to have Coach Beam on, because it's not about just winning. It's not just about ensuring someone gets a grade or just transfers. It's about making certain that when people are done with higher education, if they're ever done, that they literally are able to build and cultivate a life that adds value to society at large. Think about that. Coach Beam.
So,
or Kevin.
Here's one of the things I want to say to everybody that's listening. We put, and I do too. So we put so much on this label to get a degree, to do things, right? And it is important. I guess it kind of proves. I always tell people, like, when you do a degree, like when you graduate high school, what does it mean? It means that you were able to stick for something for 12 years or 13 years and complete it, right? You go to college, you get a degree. It says that you can learn. It doesn't say that you can do so, because whenever you go to a new job, they're going to teach you the job anyways, right? But Kevin never knew anything about commercial real estate, but he can learn. Mm-hmm. And so he has no formal training in real estate or building or whatever. But what he does have, he has a capacity to learn. And what I'd say about people in Oakland, just because that's where I'm at, they understand how to read people. Mm-hmm. And again, it goes to leadership, right? He knows how to read people and put people in a position to be successful. So he's doing this giant, whatever, building or whatever, but he's got to read all these numbers. Okay, he doesn't have an accounting background. He doesn't have all that, but he knows money. We've been on the street. We know if we got enough in our pocket or we don't have enough in our pocket, right? So he can figure that part out. But then he can see about getting people to do the work and have a vision, right? So that's the other piece. He has a vision. So sometimes if we can take a step back and say, I'm going to hire this person who doesn't have formal training, doesn't have the piece of paper, but we understand that they have the ability to learn and the capacity to want to learn. Take a chance on them and bring them into your organization. You lead them where you want them to go, but let them then start having some leadership, small tasks that they're in charge of, to bigger tasks, and see where it goes. You have to trust that you are able to see a vision in the people that you're around. Kevin talks, I saw something in Kevin. I don't know what I saw in Kevin right away, but I knew he had a smile. I know he was willing to compete. He had a big heart. And from there, it would go wherever. I didn't know Kevin had a learning disability to start with. I didn't know Kevin, the reason he was late to class because he was afraid there was people making fun of him. I just knew his ass wasn't getting to class on time. So let me deal with that. But then I took the time to find out what the issue became. And then, I get it now. Okay, so let's work on these things. Let's get tested. Let's find out there's something really there. But, we have to have that conversation. So to me is that don't worry about the paper sometimes. Just get out there and do. We spend so much time worrying about other things. Just either you can do it or you can't. Ain't that how it is on the street, Kev? Either you do or you're not.
Yes, sir.
You're a talker or a doer. So that's the way it is. Go ahead, Kev.
I just second that with coming into the real estate game. You have to get a great team to work with because you couldn't be outed very fast. I was brought along very at a great pace for myself for learning. And I was told, for first month, don't say anything. You don't have to do anything. Just sit back, listen, and write down, take notes. And it all came down to Can you be trustworthy? Can you report bad news fast? And if you need something, ask for help. And as a person who struggled, asking for help as a grown man from a word that might be misspelled, or is my punctuality right, or just saying, I don't know. And the fear of, again, it's always in my head, will I be laughed about, or how are they going to look at me? Because I always want to put my foot forward for myself and my family. I'm always representing Coach B, because he was a bridge between this and the ones that's going to come behind me. And our team has been like, if you don't ask for help, they'll get mad at you. So if you don't know something, that's fine. I don't, the ones who brought me on have made a ton of money, have changed a lot of lives, and they ask for help and they ask good questions. Ask a question, ask for help. In life, period. If it's real estate, football, whatever it may be, you always got to remember this. Ask for help, because everybody needed it. We needed help as a baby to get cleaned up. So it's the same thing in life. Ask for help in whatever your career is. If somebody has that answer, that's going to continue to move the team forward. Not myself personally, because I'm not worried about myself personally. How can I move the team going forward? Because I never want to let down this team.
I love it. That's part of leadership, critical. There are a number of comments. Zerica indicates, appreciate you both. I had the privilege of teaching Com 1 to many of the young men on Laney's football team, and I always enjoyed the energy they brought to the classroom, ! And Georgie goes, big love, Kevin, many exclamation marks. I appreciate seeing how you pour into them on the field, Coach Bean. Again, from Zerica. And then ask for help, a very important skill for success, as Tomoko indicates. And then Roy asked this question. He says, apologies for the book reviews, but this reminds me, and don't apologize, these book reviews are on point. We benefit from countless books that have seminal insights. He said, but it reminds him of Paulo Freire's work in Brazil with adult learners who were considered throwaway people. His book, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, seminal book that I read when I was in grad school, and many read it as undergrads, Pedagogy of the Oppressed, was all about empowering the powerless. And yeah. So on point. And so I have a request of the two of you, and you may have already shared it. And as we begin to close this out, I want you to indicate the three most key aspects of leadership that you are experiencing now. Think about that for a moment as I bring this other comment that just came in. We work with many ignored people here. Asking names is important. Remembering names and addressing them accordingly puts that emotion into action. And all people are people and should feel that way. That's it.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So 3 things that really reflect what quality, effective leadership looks like to you. Maybe there's 2 key things, but up to 3 things.
You want to go first, Kev?
No, you my coach, baby. I got to hear you first, baby. But I can't. If you want me to go, I'll try. You can bring it home. Let's do that, because out of respect, I'll try to go first. My biggest thing with leadership is just for that person to stand up and take the challenge, to ask for help, to move the group forward. For one, I didn't want to bring politics into this, but as I get older, you start paying attention to the news a lot more. And once we need somebody in the White House who's going to care about the left side, the right side, the Black lives, the mental health, and not worried about lining their pocketbooks and trying to do what all Americans supposed to be doing and being honest. Once we get somebody there who can, show their tax returns, because they come after me for money that I'm owed. So why not go after the people that owes, huge money? But we need somebody in there that's going to care about everybody, the left and the right, and the Black, the white, and the others. So once we stop labeling people with those demographics of, Oakland, because we were talked about from the president, and he needs to come here and learn about it and love it like we love it. There's a lot of great people here in Oakland. And all we need is opportunity and a chance, and good things can happen from it. So I just pray that when we have this next voting, that we can get somebody in there and get somebody out of there. So y'all know what I'm talking about. And just for everybody on a daily basis, just walk out the house and try to affect somebody's life while we trying to stay safe from the COVID-19. Hopefully this thing can pass very soon. Dr. Webb, I thank you again for your platform, for having us on. This is the first for me. And I know Coach gets this all the time, but it was the very first for me. And thank you to all the listeners who tuned in. And if you ever see me out, I'm willing to help. If you need anything, as everybody know me, I'll give you the shirt off my back. I don't have much money, but if you do need some money, I can get, I'll lend it to you. So we just all got to just help each other. As Dr. King, we all want to get to the mountaintop, but we got to get there together. And my last thing I would say, as an African proverb says, if you want to go fast, you need to go alone. If you want to go far, we need to do it to go together. And that's what it's all about. In the team sport I played, if we wanted to get to the championship, we had to do it together. I couldn't do it by myself. And in life, from my family to my kids to my colleagues I work with, we're trying to do everything together. And I mess up the word. I don't know the word I'm going to say, but strategically.
Strategic.
There you go. Strategically, in a good way, and moving Oakland forward. So thank you again for having us on.
It's my honor.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kev. So
Thanks,
my thing would be for leader would be, I will always believe in you so that you can believe in yourself. I will always give you hope and opportunity to be successful. And I will give you the opportunity to show me that you can lead. If something happens, then I will protect you. I will have your back.
Well, you're my coach, baby.
I have to say something. I've not you brought up your wife, John. I've not. I want to thank her.
Yes.
Because you're here, and really she's here spiritually as well. Because I am certain, I don't know all the details. I don't need to. It's none of my business. I am certain that the man you are has been enhanced, enriched, transformed because of her. And I know the same for her. I just love seeing the love that you have for one another. And that model has not only paid forward for Kevin and his relationship with his wife, as he's made very transparent, it has made a profound impact on many people's lives who may never tell you. So I want to thank you for being a beautiful model and a model for me as well. So leadership is more than just this role that's defined and then you go back home. Leadership is 24/7, right? That's what you're both talking about. And really transformative leadership is where you're paying it forward. It's not about just you and yours in this confined setting. And your statement, Kevin, about our responsibility on a national level, and I would even say international level, is so critical. So thank you for being the voice of ensuring that we're about the business of us as a unit of humans. And if any of us are not well, none of us are fully well.
True.
Any of us are in prison, we are all have some aspect of experiencing that prison. So we live in this illusion that as long as I have A, B, C, and D, I'm fine. And we forget that if others don't have their basic needs of housing, of food, of just secure in themselves and being honored, then we're not in a space where we're fully healthy and can move forward with full integrity. My humble perspective. I want to thank the two of you. It's been an absolute honor.
It's been an honor for us. Thank you, Doctor. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Kevin. Love you,
Thanks,
brother.
Doc.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dr. Webb.
Appreciate you all.
Stay blessed. Everybody stay safe.
You too. And thank you.
Thank you.
Powerful session, everyone. Another one. And thank you for contributing, being present, whether you ask questions, make comments, or just observed, so that you can walk away and pay it forward in your own way. So thank you. And next week, we will have another magical person. His name is John Santos. And this gentleman we'll be talking about some critical issues that are affecting us on a national level. And they're going to be a little bit painful. And yet out of it, because this man is rich history, his whole wiring about the responsibility we have for one another and ensuring that that takes place, I think we're all going to be inspired. So it is Afro-Latinidad. And this gentleman, award-winning musician, has played with some of the greats within this country and outside of the country. So tune in next Wednesday, noon Pacific Standard Time. Look forward to seeing you. Thank you.
No.